Hello everyone and welcome back to your piano lesson. If you are here for the first time, I am Gianluca Fronda, your virtual piano teacher. If you want to discover interesting facts about me, you can watch the introduction video of this channel. I'm leaving the link in the description of this video, where you will find also the link for my artistic channel, Gianluca Fronda, pianist and composer, if you're interested in original music and covers. Talking about this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let me know about yourself by commenting. Tell me when you have started, if you're finding my channel interesting and you're improving your skills also thanks to my videos. And don't forget also to share with your friends if there is anybody interested in piano music, anybody that you know. So now time to go to our lesson. Today I am starting a brand new series of videos, of tutorials, where I won't be playing the Thompson pieces that I'm playing on Thursday or the ABRSM pieces that I've been until now playing on Saturday and publishing on Saturday at 5 PM, but I want to start a new series of videos regarding the music theory. From scratch, a real introduction to the music theory, then going slowly, step by step, deep into the core of the music theory. Today we have to start obviously from scratch, from the problem of the sound, of the notation, of the writing down the music, the sounds, and understanding how to do it and what do we need for doing it. So we should definitely go back in time to the beginning of the music history, when the first musicians, composers had felt the need of writing down the sounds. It all started writing signs around one line, one sound above, one on the line, one below, then 2, 3, 4, up to today, when we have 5 lines for writing down the notes. For the piano, obviously this is a piano lessons channel. For the piano we don't need just 5 lines, but we need more than 5 lines. We need 2 blocks of 5 lines. Let's dive into the understanding of this aspect of the music theory. So let's take one music manuscript. Taking one, I could take many more. So here there is some of my compositions written down. Here we are, for example, an empty page. Let's maybe use the first one available. Yeah, here we are. This is, as you probably know already, the music manuscript. Is the notebook used by musicians, by composers. Obviously this is if you want to write down the music, if you want to compose, if you want to write down some exercise. You are used obviously maybe to those that have already been printed, to the music sheet. And indeed, let's take one. We can take one of those that I'm using and abusing, for example any of the John Thompson's method. Here we are. So this is simply the version already printed. This is the empty version of the music sheet of the stave. And indeed, let's talk about the elements. So we are saying that this is called music manuscript. It is a simple notebook used by musicians. This notebook is made in a completely different way. You can't find the same lines you find on notebooks that you use at school, for example, if you're a student, or the ones that you find on your notebook if you are a professional, any profession. So here we need 5 lines, 5 parallel lines. For the specific piano music sheet, we need 2 of them. The top one for the right hand and the bottom one for the left hand. We have to join them using these brackets. And we are going to use for the top stave or staff. This is the name of these 5 lines. We call them stave or staff, these lines, these blocks of 5 lines. So for the top one, we are going to use this magic sign, the treble clef. It reminds a violin. And then the bottom stave will need the one that we call bass clef. Well, what are these? These are 2 dots that are around the 4th line. I can explain now finally why we have these 2 dots around the 4th line. They are needed because this is called clef of F. Is one of the 2 F clefs. And here these 2 dots are around the 4th, just to remind you that the F in this clef is on the 4th line. This one could be also called G clef, and if you pay attention you will notice that I'm starting from the 2nd line. The correct way to start the treble clef is to start from the 2nd line, going up and then down, where the G is exactly on the 2nd line. So this is to start. We have clarified that we need 5 lines for the right, 5 for the left. Then we join them together using this bracket. Then we place this magic sign on top, that is for the right hand notes. This one at the start of the bottom stave for the left hand notes. To be very honest, we should clarify another very important thing. In between them there is an 11th invisible line. Maybe let me draw in this way. Et voila. There is an invisible 11th line. What is this 11th line? This is indeed the real line that has been hidden, and is the line where lies the middle note, the note that is in between these two lines. I will explain later what I'm talking about. After clarifying this, we have to now try to understand how do we write down the notes. Music has a specific problem. It's related to the length of the sound. We have to try to understand how to write down the sound. If, for example, in any other discipline, in any other profession, you can express yourself, for example, talking about length of one element in terms of centimeters, inches, whatever you like. Or you might even express yourself, if you want to refer to the time, in terms of seconds, minutes. In music, we are not talking about seconds or minutes, but we are talking about a very generalistic concept that is a general unit used all over the world, and is exactly the same, is the beat or count. And to write down these beats, these counts, these sounds, these notes, we are going to use 3 very basic elements. It seems that we are going back into the caves where the first humans started communicating by using circles, lines, and adding colors. Indeed, the musical language is very, very basic. Follows the instinct. And I keep saying, here we are, I'm writing here, I'm drawing here. We have potentially circles. We can use lines, stems, we will call, our vertical lines. This just to start for the first musical values. And then we will need color. Obviously, very simple, a pen or pencil. You don't have to worry about colors, real colors. Now let's start from scratch. The longest sound in music is the one that we express using exactly the circle. It seems to be the start of everything, the sun, the principle of everything, or the cell, the first cell from which life started. And indeed, here we are. This is the sign that expresses a sound that we will say is 4 counts long, because we don't have to worry too much about counting too many numbers. Like, for example, ballerini, dancers, they count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In music, it's enough counting 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can count faster, slower, doesn't matter. It depends on your level, on the level of the song, of the composition that you're going to play. So this is the element number 1, the circle. And I can start writing that this is called in the British English Semibreve. In the American English is called whole note. And indeed is the empty circle. Then we will understand how to place on the stave, on the lines, yeah? Or in between the lines. It can be featured also, because will be probably the first note that you will ever play, can be also featured using a small line in the head, I like to say, in between, in the middle of the circle. This line, now I can explain what is, I can clarify what is this line, is a small fragment of that invisible line for now, yeah? That I've mentioned is in between the staves, because you have to imagine that at the very beginning, when they had to decide how many lines to use for the piano stave, for the piano music sheet, they tried in many ways, and the best solution was the one of using 5 lines for the right and 5 for the left. We have in total 10 lines and 8 spaces, 4 spaces here and 4 spaces here. So I have understood that the best way to explain why 5 lines create 4 spaces is the best way is the one of observing 1 second your hand. We have 5 fingers. 5 fingers, if you pay attention, make 4 spaces in between. 1, 2, 3, and 4, obviously on both hands. And indeed, on the music sheet, on the stave, is exactly the same story. 5 lines and 4 small spaces in between them. Remember to count the lines from the bottom to the top. Because exactly like in any building made of 5 floors, you consider the first floor, the first one, so the bottom one, the one above, the ground floor. First line, second line, third, fourth and fifth. Don't count in the opposite way from the top to the bottom, because we are still moving in the city using cars, trains and buses. We are not flying yet. So first, second, third, fourth and fifth. And same story with the spaces. First space, second space, third space and fourth space. But now by adding this line, we are adding the 11th line. Imagine that you squeeze them, so you push them towards each other. This one should be exactly the same distance, same as these ones, same distance from this one. So we could definitely write 11 lines instead of 5 and 5. Push towards each other, this 5 and 5. This is the 11th in between. And the best way to let you understand what I mean, talking about this distance in between the lines and the fact that the way you have to consider this invisible 11th line, the best example comes from one of the first books that I've used. Sorry, it's in Italian. This is a new copy of this amazing solfege book that I've used. This one was one of the best that we were using in Italy, in the music academy, in the conservatoire. So look, pay attention. It's exactly this one. You see, they were printing even this 11th invisible line at the beginning to explain, to let us understand. So the top one is the stave, where you usually find that treble clef, the one that seems to be the violin and where you find the right hand notes. The bottom block of 5 lines is the one used for the left hand, the one where I have placed the bass clef, and this one is the 11th line. This is in reality the real clef that should be used for the piano stave. Simply keep in mind what I meant by looking at this example, that is a fantastic one. You see that the distance in between the invisible line and the first official line is not that big, so could be even could be squeezed even more, pushed. They could be both pushed even more, slightly more, but it's a fantastic example, this one. And this is what I mean. So take a picture to really memorize what I mean, and you will definitely understand it. And is here exactly this note that I have mentioned that you will discover is the middle C. The middle C is called middle C because it is in between the staves, not in the middle of the keyboard. This is the real reason why it's called middle C. And indeed we are taking of this long invisible line just a small fragment, and is the one that I'm using here. Here we are, so we use this small line, this line, using just a fragment just when it's needed. And we place in the head of this note. So could be featured in this way, the 4 counts note, in this one, same story, 4 counts. Now to this element, to this circle, this or this, we can add this vertical line, and we are getting the one that is called minim in the British English, or half note in the American English, and indeed is made using the same circle, slightly smaller maybe, with a line could go up, starting from the right side, or down from the left side, and you can indeed find it also like a middle C, the small line in the head, that so with the stem going up or stem going down. Doesn't change anything, the length is identical, 2 counts, 2 counts, 2 counts, 2 counts. And look, see if this one is 4 counts, and it write 4 counts, 2 counts. This is exactly half of the length of this. In music, by adding one element, you get half of the previous. This one was 4, now by adding the stem, we are getting half of it, 2. And now you can easily understand that by adding the third element that I've mentioned, we are getting half of this. Indeed, this one, if this one was 2 counts, will be just 1 count. 1 count is called in the British English crotchet. So, crotchet. one crotchet. So this is the British English. In the American English is called quarter note, and indeed is drawn by using these the first element, the circle, the stem, and the color inside. We are taking the last of the three that I have mentioned. This is just to finally draw the main three notes, musical values. Obviously we will discover that we have more than these, but let's start from these ones. Okay, sorry if it's not that much clear, but you understand. Equal, 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 so could be middle C with the stem down, middle C with the stem up, and so on. So these are the first three musical values. Let's repeat to clarify now. We have I've been talking about the lines, the 5 lines called stave or staff. Then I've clarified that we need this magic symbol at the beginning to clarify which notes I will find on these lines, because remember that we have potentially we have 7 clefs. Indeed, if I simply write a note here, this note here could be called in many different ways. To make it simple, if I want to simply refer to the 2 main clefs, treble clef and bass clef, could be called once B or once D. But you will understand why I'm saying this as soon as I will explain, as soon as you will discover the notes. But then this one could be also C, could be also A, could be also F, could be also E, depending on the clef that I'm going to use. We have many more, like baritone, we have tenor, we have the alto, soprano, but let's leave these clefs on the side. You don't need for now. Then I have clarified something that usually is not considered, is kept, that in between the 2 lines, in the piano stave or piano staff, we have an invisible 11th line. That obviously is the space in between the 2 staves is quite big, because we prefer to leave this big space to write extra things in the music sheet, but in reality they should be, the 2 staves should be definitely closer, not leaving any extra space but keeping the same identical space that you find in the staves in between the lines. And I think that also now is better that I show you again what I mean. So this is what I mean. This is the best example to understand the distance in between the 2 staves, the distance from the invisible line and the first line. The distance should be identical. It's simply a little bit wider, the interval, the distance, the space, just to write down a few things, like you will see then in these. Usually in the music sheet you will find dynamics. We will understand what does it mean, dynamics, these signs, and even more. Okay? Then I've clarified which ones are the first 3 elements that we are going to use: circle, line, stem, and color, recalling the most basic elements used by humans at the beginning of the history to communicate. And we consider the circle like the biggest music value, 4 counts, semibreve in the British English, whole note in the American English. This small line in the head is needed for the middle C. And so on. Minim, half of these, half note indeed in the American English by adding the stem. Crotchet, half of this one count or quarter note. On the music sheet you might find some extra element. Now let's dive into some specific case. For example, in this one, you see that there is some number. In the very beginning, for example, in very basic methods, to start exactly what you would need, you might find, for example, some number sometime on this method I really like, that is the John Thompson Scissors Piano Course Part 1. These numbers written using the words are mentioning the count, the way of counting, the counts that you need for playing. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But the written Arabic numbers are mentioning the finger that you need. So on the music sheet, exactly like in cases like these, you will find numbers, but these numbers are simply referring to the finger that has to be used. Indeed, let's clarify that the thumbs are finger number 1, the index is the finger number 2, finger number 3 the middle finger, finger number 4 the ring finger and the fourth of the right, and the little finger, the pinky, is the 5th finger. Don't make the mistake that many students do to consider this one finger number 1. This is finger number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Just few more things to clarify from today. On top, straight after these two clefs, what you will find on the music sheet are numbers that in these already printed versions are shown straight after the clef sign. These two numbers, you could find 4 on top of 4, you could find 3 on 4, you could find 2 on 4. These are the 3 most basic time signatures that you will find at the beginning. What do they mean? It means that you will have to count at the beginning 4 when you play. Here you will have to count 3. Here you will have to count 2. But what do I mean? It's about the quantity of counts or beats that you can find in the bar. Let's try to maybe make a simple example. If, for example, this is the one count note, crochet or quarter note, as I have mentioned, in a 4/4, I want to use now simply one stave in treble clef. Yeah? I write 4 on top of 4. So if I want to complete one bar or measure, because indeed we have to organize now the music in bars or measures. It's not enough writing the notes. It's needed also to create structures, exactly like in the house, in any studio. You have rooms, studios. You have to do the same in the music sheet. You will have to divide the music in measures or bars, using bar lines. And how do you decide when to create a room, to create a bar, a measure? You will decide according to the time signature. If you have to reach 4 counts in total in each measure, in each bar, after completing 4 counts, you can draw the bar line. Indeed, for example, let's do it this way. I write this note, then I write another one here, another one here, another one here. If each of them is 1 count, according to what I said, crochet, quarter notes, 1 count, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Sorry, I missed the stem. And well, I can draw the bar line. But I can do also using 2 notes of 2 counts each. 2 counts, 2 minims, 2 half notes. 2 plus 2 is 4. But then the most basic case is exactly the one of a note that is worth 4 counts. And since this one is 4 in total, I can draw immediately. Obviously, we start from the most basic cases of the 4 count notes. In general, you start playing and reading this very basic note that I said is the middle C. 4 counts middle C, empty circle with a small line in the head, ledger line. 4 counts could be written either close to the top stave or close. I want to draw now here a bass clef stave. Can be also written very close to the bass clef stave. And to make it even easier, I'm doing again the treble clef and the bass clef here. And I can show you that if you have to play the middle C with the right hand, it will be written closer to the top stave. If you have to play the middle C with the left hand, you will place it closer to the bottom stave, but they are exactly the same identical note. On the keyboard, these notes are exactly the same ones, are middle C that you can play, for example, with the thumb of the right hand or with the thumb of the left hand. They seem to be different, but they are exactly the same. Indeed, as I told you, they should be both on this invisible 11th line in between the staves. We are simply placing one closer to the top, one closer to the bottom to make it easy for you. So we have clarified now the concept of measures or bars. So these are measures or bars. Or bars. One bar, many bars. One measure, many measures. And I think that for today it's enough Yeah, I will explain the 3-4. It will be simply about collecting maximum 3 counts in a bar, and then the 2-4 to collect maximum 2 counts in each bar measure. But for today I think it's enough. Obviously, if you have any question, feel free to comment to let me know if you've understood everything, but step by step I will be clarifying. Today is simply an introduction video, and you will get more and more in the following ones. If it's the first time that you're landing on my channel thanks to this video, don't forget to subscribe, and see you in the next one. All the best. Bye.